What's up, guys? This is Rod, and today we're going to talk about the spec I roll on my warrior. Maybe we can compare notes between your spec and mine and find some middle ground or whatever we need to do. But this is a large topic. Hopefully I can get through it fairly quickly, but bear with me here. So I'm going to start off. What I roll on my warrior is greatsword and rifle. So I'm going to show you this right now. I roll critical damage on my greatsword because obviously, you know, it's going to be pumping out the most damage. And I use the Sigil of Battle because the majority of the time in the PvE slash World PvP type deal, you're going to be using your rifle 9 times out of 10, or 90% of it, probably even 95% of the time. So if you ever do get into melee combat, this gives you initial 3 stacks of might, which I believe is 35 power per. So, you know, that's an extra 100 power when you get into combat and melee. So that's not bad. And on my rifle, I run condition damage and a rune of fire just to do the AoE, because the majority of the time when you're running around in WvW, it's going to be Zerg versus Zerg. So like big group of people versus big group of people, and if you have an AoE every 5 seconds, you know, that's good stuff. It'll do extra damage for you. Now, what I run on my gear is power, precision, and condition damage. The reason why I do this and use condition damage, I should say, instead of critical damage, is mainly because in a World v World sense, when you're attacking somebody and you're doing a lot of damage, you know, especially you attack the people at the front of the Zerg, 9 times out of 10 they're going to run away as soon as you get them low. Like if you get a few shots on them, they're going to run to the back. So the condition damage actually ends up doing more damage to them than the critical damage would have done. And also, you know, in dungeons and stuff, extra condition damage is never bad. So, you know, that's mainly what I run on all my gear here, as you can see. I also run the Rune of Rage, mainly for the critical damage and also for the increased fury duration, and it gives you fury whenever you're hit, and also critical damage when you're under the effects of fury. There's actually a typo in there if you look. It's a small c on the number 6. But anyways, I'm going to switch over to my talents and traits, and I'm going to tell you why fury is so important, and also why I run it. I'm going to start at the top here, and I'm going to try to breeze through this you know, as quickly as possible for you, because this is, as I said, a lengthy topic. So slashing power, 10% greatsword damage. That's good if you ever get into melee combat. Oh, I forgot to mention this original spec is actually made for SPVP, but I adopted it into PvE slash World PvP because it is very effective, and I feel this is probably one of the best, probably the best greatsword spec you can run. So I'm sharing this with you now. Burst skills restore endurance. Great. Burst skills are actually the adrenaline skills you use to your F1 ability. And damage increased by how much adrenaline you have built. So, you know, 12% additional damage at 3 stacks of adrenaline. This spec, it's basically, it revolves around fury and gaining adrenaline as quickly as possible so you can continuously use your kill shot and or F1 abilities. I take Healing Surge, even though it is a 30-second cooldown. It grants 10 strikes of adrenaline, which is pretty much a full bar. I also take Signet of Rage, which grants adrenaline over time. And the rifle does fire fairly quickly, especially with volley, and if you switch over to 100 blades, if you hit with 100 blades, each strike gives you a strike of adrenaline. It's same thing with rolling attack, and blade trail here is an AoE, and it actually goes forward and then comes back. So all of those hits will grant you a strike of adrenaline. So that's just all privy information. You know, that's just good stuff to know, because it gives you a lot of adrenaline very quickly. So this talent is very much worthwhile taking. Damage fills in at the end of a dodge roll, whatever. Attack of opportunity. This is an additional 10% damage, I should say, to characters that are bleeding. Your rifle applies a passive bleed whenever you hit with the basic attack, so this is pretty much always going to be up, especially when you use your rifle. Or and actually down here, you have a 33% chance to apply bleed on critical hits. I currently run, if you noticed, 61% chance to crit. That's with the World v World buff. It's normally around 58. And if I switch over to my sword, actually, yeah, perfect. Critical damage actually goes up to 34. It doesn't really matter, but you know, that's a very high chance to crit, and as you may know, Fury gives an additional 20% chance to crit, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. As you can see here, Opportunist grants Fury when you immobilize a target. Now this synergizes perfectly with this talent down here, Leg Specialist. Apply a 1 second immobilize whenever you cripple a target with the skill. If you noticed when I showed you Blade Trail applies a cripple, and it's an AoE cripple. It's actually in a line, and it applies it on the way out and on the way back when the sword moves. So, and let's say if you hit multiple targets with it, that gets you it gets you unbelievable length on Fury just for free. That's a 15-second cooldown, because I don't take the cooldown reduction from the talents, mainly because of this talent right here, which is weapon swapping, how I can recharge weapons every 5 seconds, or recharges 5 seconds faster. So it's a 4-second cooldown between 5-second cooldown between switching weapons, rather than a 10-second cooldown. So, jumping back to this, gain Fury whenever you immobilize a target. As you can see here, also aim shot also immobilizes, and also I take throw bolas. Throw bolas is absolutely 100% required if you're going to run a greatsword. End of discussion. There's no better way to lock somebody down to actually get 100 blades off full channel. I'm going to switch down here, and it goes 33% chance to cause vulnerability on critical hits. And this is also very important, because when you have Fury, especially, let's say, I'll just give you a scenario here. If I hit an opponent with aim shot, that'll cripple them, that'll give me Fury. If I launch a volley at them, this has the potential chance of critting 5 times, because I'm going to have about 78% chance to crit or higher. And when that's up, like that's an additional 5% damage that the opponent is taking. Now if I couple that also at the end of that with Brutal Shot, that's another 5 stacks of vulnerability. That's an additional 10% damage that they're taking. Now let's couple that with Berserker's Power. That's 22% chance of the additional chance damage that they're taking, I should say. And also cripple that with Attack of Opportunity. That's 32% additional damage taken. Ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Also, where is it here? It's an additional 10% chance to, sorry, where is it? Burst skills have an additional 10% chance to crit. That's aim shot. So add 30% damage onto that. It's more than likely gonna crit, because I'm going to have Fury either from this signet right here, which is Signet of Rage, grants Fury for 33 seconds. That's 20% additional chance to crit. Also, I do additional crit damage when I under the effects of Fury from the Rune of Rage. And also heightened focus. Gain additional 9% chance to crit with 3 stages of adrenaline. So I basically have a 100% chance to crit when all of those things line up. And that equates out to be about 7,000 to 8,000 damage on your kill shots. And that's without pure crit damage. So, you know, like, this spec I feel is just so solid, and it just synergizes with itself so well that I honestly feel this is the best spec to be as a warrior. Now, and this is PvP and World PvP. Now, if we're talking in an SPvP sense, you want to go full crit damage, because you're going to have much more maximum uptime on your opponents. So that's just the better way to go for that, for sure. But as just for, you know, just farming and PvE dungeons and in World PvP, I feel this spec, as I said, is probably the best greatsword spec you can run. It's optimizing on all the best abilities of the rifle and the greatsword, and as a little added bonus, the Arcing Slice does really suck, but it gives you Fury. So just in case you're in a melee combat and you're out of ways to get Fury, Arcing Slice. You know, it's just so many ways to give yourself an advantage with this spec. Also, if you're running a melee spec, any kind of melee spec, you need gap closers. And so you have Whirling Attack, you also have Rush, which is a charge, and also you have Bull's Charge, which stuns, knocks down your opponent, and it's got a pretty decent cooldown. I feel, as I said,
Very strong spec. Endure Pain will allow you to live a little bit longer, especially if you end up getting, jumped by 2 or 3 people. In World v World, let's say you're standing at the front of the Zerg, you can take a few hits, you can run to the back. It just gives you more options. So that's my spec, guys. Hope you enjoy. Try it out. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.